Hello everyone, today I wanted to cover the connectors and crimps that are used on CobraPin, and I also wanted to cover some connector options for my boards that don't already come with connectors on them. So to start out, on the main CobraPin board, as well as the expansion and satellite boards and the NeoSeg displays, there are actually only two connector types. They are the high current ones, the JST VH connectors. They have these little clips on them that clip onto the connectors when you have them plugged in. These are rated for 7 amps and they can accept 22 gauge all the way up to 16 gauge pretty easily. These are 22 gauge that I have here, but if you're using them for coils then you're going to want 18 or bigger. The second connector type that we have are these KF2510 connectors. These are 0.1 inch pitch or 2.54 millimeter. They are knockoffs of the Molex KK 2.54 series. And these are good for 22 gauge, and I've used them for 24 gauge as well. Sometimes when I'm wiring things, I use Ethernet cable, and this is often 24 gauge, and that fits well into these KF2510 connectors. So let's go into a little bit more of how to actually crimp these connectors. Many people use a universal crimper similar to this that you can buy off of Amazon. These work fine, but they are a little bit more difficult to use. I prefer to use these Molex crimpers. These are quite expensive. I just happened to pick them up at a local engineering company. They were doing a purge and they were actually throwing these out because they didn't need them anymore. So I rescued them and have been using them for my pinball applications. So let's start with the high current connectors, the VH connectors. These are the crimps that come for them. Just break them off, get them queued up in the connector here. See that? You can get it a couple of clicks, get it set. Then we're gonna go get our wire. We've got our wire. I'm just gonna cut off a little bit of it. Sorry, strip off a little bit of it. We'll get our crimper. Wire loaded in the crimper. It's going to take some practice to get it in the right spot. And then, and there you have it. Give it a pull test, make sure that it's good. Again, these aren't the perfect crimpers for this particular crimp, but as long as you get good connection and solid crimp there, it should be good. So what does a decent crimp look like? This one isn't perfect. You can see that these fingers didn't completely grab the insulation, but it still is grabbing it, still looking good. And then another thing to look for is that you have wire strands sticking out from this crimp area and wire strands on the other side. So you want a good insulation crimp and a good contact crimp. So this one's good enough. It may not be IPC rated, but good enough. So once you have your crimp, you can take your connector here and it just inserts in the back. This little finger that comes down here, that's going to be on the same side as these open slots here. So you can just insert in that in the back. You can hear and feel it click in place. And then again, give it a tug. Make sure that it doesn't come out with a little bit of force. And there you've crimped your first contact, and you just continue on until you've crimped all of the contacts that you want. Similarly, to do the KF2510 crimps, those look like this. So again, bend the piece off the tape, get that loaded in your crimper, Give it a few clicks so that it's held in place. Strip the wire as necessary. Insert the wire. And then give it a good crimp. All right, that looks decent. Let's go take a look at it under the microscope. Okay, here's the crimp under the microscope. Again, you can see the strands coming out of this end on the left side, and then you can still see strands on the right side. And you've got a good insulation crimp here, and you can give it a good tug and it doesn't come out. Now you've got your crimped wire and your housing. Again, same thing. There's a little nub, little finger hanging down on this side. That matches up to the opening on this side. Just insert it from the back, push it in. You can hear and feel it as it clicks into place, and you can't pull it back. Okay, now what if you made a mistake? What if you need to get this wire out because you need to rewire it in some way, move it from one pin to the other? Well, all you got to do is take some sort of sharp object like this awl, and you are going to use the awl to depress the finger that's engaging this little slot here. And as you do that, you need to pull out the wire. So let's go ahead and give that a try. So we are kind of actually pushing in the wire to press that piece with the awl, and it pulls right out. Again, you can see that finger's still sticking down, so you don't want to push down too hard with the awl, otherwise you'll yield that piece and it won't be really usable again. If you do happen to push it down too far, you can come back in with something and kind of bend it back up, but it's looking okay right now. So you can take that and put it in a different slot if you need. You can still hear it click, and it still holds. All right, so now you know how to work with the JST VH and the KF2510 that are used on the CobraPin boards. But what about the boards that don't have connectors on them already? So these would be like the LED insert boards or the GI boards. These don't have connectors on them. You don't have to use connectors, you can directly wire these, but if you so choose, you can add connectors, and there's a number of options because these are standard 0.1 inch pitch connectors or 2.54 millimeters. They're very common, and there's many different types of connectors that will work for this application. I'm going to show you 3 of them just as an example. So again, we can take our KF2510s. These are the same that we used earlier, and you can install those on these boards and solder them, crimp connectors for them, whatever. Or you can use JST XH connectors. So here's the XH connectors. These are very commonly used connectors. I've used them in RC airplanes. It's a balance connector for a 7.4 volt battery. So these are the connectors that fit into here. You can buy these on Amazon or other distributors as pre-terminated cables. So you can actually buy this cable with a connector on both ends of various lengths. So then all you have to do is solder these connectors on and then buy those pre-terminated cables, and then you can connect them as you wish. And then the third option is to use normal pin headers. So these are normal 0.1 inch pitch pin headers. Just take those, install them, solder them in place, just like that. And again, now you can buy pre-terminated cables These are often referred to as DuPont connectors, 0.1 inch pitch connectors. I'll share a link, but here's an example of pre-terminated cables that you can buy at various lengths. Then they just plug in just like that. So if you don't like any of those three options, there's plenty more options out there for 0.1 inch pitch through-hole connectors that you can use. Thanks for watching. Go ahead and take a look at my products on Pinside. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.